The war had lasted for years, a war like no other, between Earth and the mighty Galtech Empire. The two sides clashed in space, on distant planets, and even in the depths of the cosmos. The Galtech Empire, a powerful and advanced alien civilization, had long believed they could conquer anything. But humanity had something the Galtechs did not understand: the will to never give up. It was this will that helped Earth's forces push back the Empire's advanced fleets, step by step, until the tides began to turn. Commander Alan Wells, leader of the Earth Defense Force, had led countless battles and seen many of his friends and soldiers fall. But he never lost faith. He believed in humanity's strength, in their ability to overcome any challenge. Finally, after years of struggle, the Galtech Empire surrendered. The moment of victory was bittersweet. Earth's soldiers were exhausted, their bodies scarred from the long fight. Yet there was a feeling of pride that filled every corner of the planet. They had done the impossible. Earth had won. To celebrate the victory, the leaders of all the galactic races who had been part of the war gathered on the peaceful planet of Archon. It was a neutral world where discussions of the spoils of war could take place. Diplomats, generals, and influential leaders from all parts of the galaxy filled the Grand Hall. Everyone was eager to divide the rewards of the war, the technologies, the resources, the territories. After all, a victory this big meant huge benefits. Alan Wells stood at the front of the room, alongside representatives from other factions. The humans had a seat at the table now. It was a symbol of how far they had come, from being an underdog to now being treated as an equal in the galactic community. The room was filled with a hum of voices as leaders argued over the distribution of spoils. Some wanted new planets to claim. Others wanted advanced technologies from the defeated Empire's archives. The debates seemed endless, and the room grew tense as each faction made its demands. Alan had just started to lose himself in the chaos when a strange, calm voice interrupted the noise. Commander Wells, said a tall, regal figure from the Yalthera, an ancient alien race that had watched the war from afar. His name was Theric, a respected diplomat from the Yalthera delegation. He had the look of someone who had seen centuries come and go, his silvery hair glimmering under the hall's lights. Theric raised his hand, silencing the room. "Before we continue the discussions," he said, "I have a gift for humanity." The words echoed through the hall. A gift. From the Yalthera. Alan felt the eyes of every leader turn toward him. It was not common for such powerful alien races to offer gifts without some sort of trade or condition. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Theric stepped forward, signaling to someone behind him. Alan squinted as a figure emerged from the shadows. At first, he thought it was an illusion, but as the figure stepped into the light, Alan's eyes widened. She was beautiful, inhumanly so. Her skin shimmered in a soft blue hue, like the calmest ocean waves, and her eyes were a striking silver that seemed to glow with wisdom. Her long, flowing hair was as white as snow, and seemed to move with an elegance that was almost unreal. She was dressed in a simple yet elegant robe, the fabric catching the light as she moved. She was unlike anyone Alan had ever seen. "This is Lyra," Theric introduced her. "She is a gift from the Yalthera to humanity, a symbol of our respect for your strength and your resilience during the war." Alan's mind raced. A gift. But this wasn't an object, it was a person. A stunning alien woman. The entire room fell silent, and Alan felt his heart race. He didn't know what to say. Lyra stood gracefully, her silver eyes meeting Alan's. There was a calmness about her, a strength that made Alan feel as though she wasn't just beautiful on the outside, but that her soul was just as remarkable. Her presence was almost otherworldly, and for a moment, Alan forgot the political debates around him. He only focused on her. You're a gift." Alan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. It felt strange to speak those words aloud. A gift. How could a person be a gift? Was this some sort of political move? but there was something in her eyes that told him it wasn't. She didn't look like she was forced into this. She was calm, collected, and strangely at peace. Lyra nodded, her voice soft but clear. "Yes, Commander. I am here to learn from humanity, and to offer what my people can. The Yalthera have watched you for some time. We believe you possess great potential, and we wish to learn from you as well." The room remained silent, the leaders looking at Alan for his response. He was still trying to make sense of it all. A beautiful alien woman sent as a gift to learn from humanity. It was too much to process in a single moment, but one thing was clear: humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. And Alan Wells, the leader of Earth's forces, would have to figure out how to navigate this strange new reality. The room remained still after Cytheric's words. The other leaders exchanged uncertain glances, whispering among themselves. Commander Alan Wells stood frozen for a moment, his mind struggling to understand what had just happened. A gift from the Yalthera. A beautiful alien woman. He glanced at her again. Lyra, as she was called, stood still and calm in the middle of the room, her eyes glowing softly with an intensity that seemed both ancient and wise. There was no fear in her gaze, only a quiet confidence. Cytherec stepped forward once more, breaking the silence. The Yalthera believe that humanity possesses a rare strength, one that cannot be found anywhere else in the galaxy. Your ability to survive, to adapt, and to fight when all hope seems lost has earned our respect. Lyra is not just a gift of honor, but a symbol, a token of goodwill, and a chance for us to learn from one another. Alan tried to make sense of what Cytherec was saying. The Yalthera were an ancient race, known for their wisdom and their peaceful ways. They had always remained on the fringes of galactic conflicts, observing rather than intervening. But now, they were offering a gift, a living being, something humanity had never experienced before. But why? Alan finally managed to ask, his voice filled with confusion. He looked from Cytherec to Lyra, and back again. Why give us something like this? Cytherec smiled, though it was a knowing smile. Humans have shown us that there is much to be learned from your resilience, your creativity, and your ability to unite when the need is greatest. Lyra will stay with you, Commander. She will be your guide and your companion as humanity continues its journey into the future. Alan was stunned. He had heard stories about the Yalthera, stories of their peaceful ways and incredible intellect, but he had never imagined they would offer something like this. Lyra was a living being, not a tool or an object. She was real. She was not someone to be handed over like a prize. The idea of accepting her, of understanding her purpose, felt almost impossible to grasp. But before he could speak again, Lyra stepped forward. She was moving with grace, her eyes meeting Alan's as she spoke. "I understand your confusion, Commander," she said, her voice soft yet clear, like the sound of wind through the trees. "You do not know me, and I do not know you, but I have been sent here with a purpose. I wish to learn from you, as my people wish to learn from humanity. We believe that by working together, we can build something greater than we ever imagined." Alan stood there, looking at her. She didn't seem forced or frightened. She seemed at peace, as if this was something she had chosen for herself. It was hard to explain, but there was a calmness about her that made him feel less fearful of the situation. It wasn't every day that an alien race sent one of their own to live among humans, but perhaps this was the beginning of something new. Maybe humanity had reached a point where they were ready to make connections beyond their own planet. Where will you stay?" Alan asked, his voice betraying the uncertainty he felt. Lyra smiled. It was a small, reassuring smile. "I will stay with you, Commander. I will learn from you, and I will help you in any way I can. My people believe that there is much we can offer you in return, but the first step is for us to understand each other." Alan's mind was still racing. His eyes turned back to Cytherec, as if seeking some kind of confirmation, but the Yalthera diplomat only nodded. "Yes, Sitheric said, "The gift is yours to accept. We trust you, Commander. We trust humanity." The silence in the room was overwhelming. Every leader present was watching Alan, waiting for him to make his decision. They all knew this moment was significant, but none of them fully understood what it meant. Alan took a deep breath. He was a soldier, trained to face difficult situations. But this was something entirely different. He had led his people through war, through struggles, but now he was being asked to guide an alien into humanity's future. "All right," Alan said finally. "If the Yalthera believe this is for the good of humanity, then I will do my part." Lyara's silver eyes brightened slightly, and a wave of relief seemed to pass through her. She nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Commander," she said. Alan turned to the other leaders, still unsure of how to navigate this strange new world he had been thrust into. They, too, seemed lost in thought, trying to understand the significance of Lyra's presence among them. As the meeting continued, Alan found his mind drifting. There was still much to discuss: plans for rebuilding, the division of resources, the future of the galaxy. But his thoughts kept returning to Lyra. Why had the Yalthera chosen her? What did they see in humanity that made them believe this kind of gift was possible? For the first time, Alan wondered if humanity's place in the galaxy was about to change forever. With Lyra by his side, Earth might soon be part of something much bigger than they had ever imagined. The days after Lyra's arrival were a whirlwind of questions and unknowns. Alan Wells found himself constantly surrounded by new challenges, trying to balance the day-to-day operations of rebuilding Earth's government with his new responsibility as the guardian of an alien visitor. The entire world had been watching as the galactic leaders made their decisions, but now the weight of what had happened was beginning to settle in. Lyra, however, seemed completely at ease. She adjusted quickly to life on Earth, moving through its cities and its culture with an air of quiet grace. While many humans were still trying to understand her presence, she seemed to understand them with ease. Despite her alien origins, she was fluent in every major language of the human race. Her communication skills were flawless, and she easily blended into everyday life, much to Alan's surprise. The first few days were spent in meetings, where Alan tried to explain Earth's ways of life, from politics to history to culture. Lyra listened with interest, never interrupting, always asking thoughtful questions. Alan was struck by how intelligent she was. It wasn't just her appearance that was extraordinary. She seemed to absorb knowledge like a sponge. "Tell me more about how your species overcame war," Lyra asked one evening as they sat in Alan's office, talking over tea. "I have studied many species, but none have faced such challenges, and yet continue to fight for survival with such spirit. I find it inspiring." Alan leaned back in his chair, thinking carefully before answering. "We're not perfect," he said. "Humans make mistakes. But when things seem impossible, we find a way to push through. We keep fighting, not because we think we'll always win, but because we know that even the smallest effort can change the world." Lyra's eyes glowed softly as she listened. "It's not just strength that you have then. It is your belief in hope that makes humanity different." Alan smiled. "Maybe. We don't always succeed, but we never stop trying." The more Alan spoke with Lyra, the more he realized that her people, the Yalthera, were not just offering a simple gift. They were offering something much deeper, an opportunity for both races to learn from each other. Lyra had come to Earth with an open mind, ready to understand humanity in ways that no other species had ever tried. And Alan, in turn, was starting to see how much they could offer him as well. "Tell me," Lyra asked one day, "what is it that you dream of for your species, Commander? What do you hope humanity will become?" Alan paused. No one had ever asked him that before. It wasn't a question of politics or survival. It was a personal question, one that made him think about the future. "I dream of a world where humans are not just fighting to survive, but thriving. Where we don't have to keep rebuilding after every war, and where we can focus on improving ourselves and helping others. Alan said slowly, I want a future where our children don't have to face the same struggles we did. Lyra's silver eyes sparkled as she listened, as if she could sense the depth of Alan's words. And you believe that humanity can achieve this, even with all the chaos you've faced? I do, Alan replied without hesitation. I believe in humanity's potential. I believe that we have the ability to create something better, for ourselves and for the galaxy. Lyra nodded thoughtfully, absorbing his words. I see. I think the Yalthera could help you in ways we never imagined. We can offer wisdom, knowledge, and peace, but we also have much to learn from you. Your ability to hold on to hope, even when everything seems lost, is something that many species struggle to understand. As the days passed, Alan began to realize that Lyra's arrival was not just a gift, it was a new chapter in humanity's journey. The Yalthera were offering a chance to connect with the rest of the galaxy in ways that were unimaginable before. But it wasn't just about the technology or the resources that could be shared. It was about understanding, empathy, and cooperation. One evening, as they walked through the quiet streets of New York City, Lyra turned to Alan with a thoughtful expression. Commander, what would it mean for humanity to be truly united? She asked. Not just among your species, but with others as well. Is it possible for all the races in the galaxy to come together in peace? Alan considered the question carefully. It was a big one, and not something that could be answered easily. I think it's possible, he said finally. But it takes time, and it takes trust. Not everyone will agree, and there will be challenges. But I believe if we work together, we can create a future where everyone has a place. Lyra smiled. Then I will help you, Commander. I will help you show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Her words filled Alan with a sense of purpose. He realized that this wasn't just about the Earth anymore. It was about something much bigger, a new future for the galaxy, one where different species could learn from each other and work together for the common good. But the path ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still many unknowns, and not everyone would be as welcoming as the Yalthera. Some would fear what humanity's rise meant for the galaxy, and others might see Lyra's presence as a threat. But Alan felt more determined than ever. With Lyra by his side, humanity had a chance to show the universe who they really were. And that was just the beginning. The weeks that followed Lyra's arrival were both exciting and challenging for Commander Alan Wells. As he continued to meet with world leaders and try to rebuild Earth's future, Lyra quietly became an important part of his life. She was not just an alien visitor. She was a companion, a symbol of something greater, and perhaps the key to a future humanity had only dreamed of. Despite her calm demeanor, the human world was still not fully ready for the changes that were coming. While many welcomed her with open arms, others were more skeptical. The arrival of an alien race, no matter how peaceful or wise, was a change that stirred up fears of the unknown. Some saw the Yalthera as a threat, even if they had no intention of harming Earth. Others worried that humanity's independence would be compromised, that they might lose control of their own future. Alan knew that the road ahead would not be easy. It was not just about accepting an alien visitor. It was about understanding what that meant for humanity's place in the galaxy. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, something that would challenge everything he and Lyra had worked toward. One morning, as Alan sat at his desk, going over the latest reports, he received a message from the United Nations. It was urgent. He opened the communication and read the message carefully. The message came from a group of powerful human leaders who were pushing for a more cautious approach toward the Yalthera. They argued that while the Yalthera seemed peaceful, the gift of Lyra was too much, too soon. They wanted more control over how interactions with the alien species were handled, fearing that Earth might be giving away too much trust too quickly. Alan felt a tightness in his chest as he read the words. He had known there would be resistance, but seeing it in black and white made it all the more real. He knew that not everyone would understand Lyra's presence, but this felt like a step toward division, a dangerous path that could push humanity away from the very opportunity they had fought so hard to win. Liara, as always, remained calm and understanding. She had noticed Alan's growing tension over the past few days, and she could tell something was bothering him. She approached him in his office, her presence serene but attentive. "Commander, I sense there is something troubling you," she said softly, her silver eyes meeting his with quiet concern. "You have been distracted. What is it?" Alan ran a hand through his hair, sighing deeply. "It's the politics, Liara. There are people who want to control how we interact with you and your people. They're afraid of losing power, afraid of what it might mean for Earth if we trust the Yalthera too much. Some fear we are opening ourselves up to something we don't fully understand." Liara listened carefully, her expression unchanged. "Fear is often the result of the unknown," she said gently. "Many races have struggled with fear of the unfamiliar. It is natural for them to feel uncertain, but it is in moments like these that trust must be built." Alan looked at her, appreciating her calm wisdom. But the truth was, trust would take time, and not everyone would be as open as Liara. He couldn't help but wonder how long it would take for the world to accept the Yalthera, and what would happen if they didn't. A knock on the door interrupted their conversation. Alan stood up and opened it to reveal his military advisor, General Marcus Reed. His face was serious, and Alan could tell something important was on his mind. "Commander, we need to talk," General Reed said as he stepped inside. Alan gestured for him to take a seat. "What's going on, General?" "We've received reports from several military groups around the world. Some of them are worried about Liara's presence on Earth. They're not sure where her loyalties lie, and there's talk about restricting her movement. It's nothing major yet, but it's starting to spread," General Reed explained. Alan felt a surge of frustration. "What do you mean? Liara has done nothing but help us. She's been a guide, a teacher. Why are they so afraid of her?" "Fear doesn't always make sense, Commander," General Reed said, his voice lowering. "It's the unknown, the uncertainty. People are always scared of what they don't understand, even if it's not a threat." Alan nodded, but he knew that the situation was becoming more delicate by the day. "We can't let fear control us. We can't let it destroy the opportunity we have here, the chance for something better." Liara, who had been listening quietly, spoke again. "Perhaps this is the time for a different approach. Fear can only be overcome by understanding. If we continue to build trust, to show that the Yalthera and humanity can work together, perhaps the fear will fade." Alan considered her words carefully. Liara was right. If humanity were to move forward, they would need to take steps to show the world that trust and cooperation were possible. But it would take more than just a few meetings or speeches. It would require humanity to prove that they could work alongside the Yalthera for the greater good. "We'll have to be patient," Alan said, his voice firm. "We'll show them that we are ready, that humanity can be trusted." As the days passed, Alan made it his mission to meet with more leaders and try to bridge the gap between the factions that were beginning to form. But no matter how hard he tried, the tension in the air grew thicker. There were whispers in every corner of the world about the risks of trusting the Yalthera, and it seemed like every conversation was becoming a battle for control. Liara remained by his side, offering support and wisdom, but even she could feel the pressure mounting. The road ahead was uncertain, and Alan couldn't shake the feeling that something was coming, a storm that could change everything. The situation on Earth was growing more tense with each passing day. Commander Alan Wells could feel the pressure mounting. Not only were the leaders of Earth divided over the presence of the Yalthera, but now there were signs of growing unrest in the streets. Some human factions were protesting against the alliance, calling for a more cautious approach to the aliens, while others believed that Liara's presence was a blessing and a chance to build a better future. Alan knew that they had to find a way to prove the benefits of the alliance, not just to the politicians, but to the people. If they failed, humanity could fall into division at a time when unity was more important than ever. One evening, as Alan and Lyra sat in the headquarters, the latest reports came in. Tensions were rising across the globe. Protests in several cities had turned violent, and there were growing fears about the intentions of the Yalthura. Some citizens even claimed that the aliens were trying to take control of Earth. "These protests are getting worse," General Reed said, looking at the data on his tablet. "If we don't act soon, this could spiral out of control." Alan sat in silence, his mind racing. He knew that violence would not help. If anything, it would only fuel the fear and suspicion that had already taken root. The last thing they needed was a conflict, especially when the Yalthura had done nothing but offer support. Lyra, who had been observing quietly, spoke up. "I understand their fear, Commander. People always fear what they do not understand. But we must show them that the Yalthura are here to help, that we can work together for the future." Alan turned to her. Her calm, steady voice had a way of soothing his thoughts, even in the midst of chaos. "I know you're right, Lyra. But how do we show them? How do we make them believe?" Lyra paused, as if thinking carefully about her words. "I can show them. I can take part in something that will prove our intentions, a demonstration of trust, to show that we are not here to harm them, but to help." Alan frowned slightly. "A demonstration." Lyra nodded. "I will travel to one of the cities where tensions are highest. I will speak to the people directly, show them who I am, and offer them a chance to see that peace is possible. If I am accepted, it will send a message to the rest of the world." Alan was hesitant. Sending Lyra into a crowd of angry protesters seemed dangerous, but he also knew that this might be their best chance to shift the tide of fear and suspicion. "It's risky, but if you believe it will help, we'll support you." The next day, Lyra traveled to the heart of one of the largest cities where protests had turned violent. Alan watched through the video feed, his heart pounding in his chest. He was worried for her safety. The city was surrounded by crowds of angry people, many of them shouting and holding signs demanding that the Yalthura leave. But when Lyra arrived, something remarkable happened. As she stood before the crowd, her presence seemed to quiet them. The angry voices slowly died down, replaced by an eerie silence. Lyra stepped forward, her movements graceful and confident. "People of Earth," she began, her voice amplified through the speakers. "I am Lyra, a representative of the Yalthura. I understand your fears, and I do not ask you to trust us blindly. But I am here to offer peace and to show you that together we can build something better. My people have watched you, and we believe in your strength. We believe in your potential, and we want to help." For a moment, there was only silence. Alan's breath caught in his throat. He could see Lyra standing alone in front of the massive crowd, her silver eyes calm and steady. She wasn't just speaking to them as an alien. She was speaking to them as a fellow being, one who understood their struggles and their hopes. A voice from the crowd broke the silence. "How can we trust you? How do we know you're not here to take over?" Lyra's response was gentle, yet firm. "We are not here to take control. We are here to offer knowledge, to offer help. But the choice is yours. We will stand by your side, but we will never force anything upon you." The crowd seemed to pause, taking in her words. There were murmurs of uncertainty, but also signs of curiosity. Slowly, people began to lower their signs and stop shouting. It wasn't a complete shift, but it was a start. Alan watched the scene unfold, a sense of pride growing in his chest. Lyra had done what no one else could have done. She had stood in front of the very people who had feared her kind and spoken to them with honesty and compassion. And slowly, she was beginning to change their hearts. After the demonstration, the protests began to quiet down. The news channels began to report on Lyra's peaceful message, and many people were starting to question their fears. The shift was not immediate, but it was a step forward. Back at the headquarters, Alan stood in front of a window, looking out at the city skyline. His thoughts were a mix of relief and caution. The battle for trust wasn't over, but they had won a small victory. Lyra's bravery had shown that peace was possible, but there was still much work to be done. Lyra entered the room quietly, her presence as calm as always. "It is a start," she said softly, her eyes meeting his. Alan turned to her, a grateful smile forming on his face. "You did it, Lyra. You showed them that we can work together." Lyra smiled back. "This is only the beginning, Commander. There is much more to do. But I believe humanity is ready. We are ready." Alan felt a renewed sense of hope. For the first time in a long while, he believed that maybe, just maybe, they could create the future they had dreamed of. Together. The world was changing, but not all at once. While the protests had died down in some cities, in others, tensions still simmered. People who had once feared the Yalthera were now beginning to see them in a different light, but the path toward full acceptance was still long. Alan Wells couldn't help but feel a sense of cautious hope. The demonstration Lyra had given was a success, but it was only the first step in what would be a complex journey. He spent his days meeting with world leaders, making sure that the message of cooperation was heard loud and clear. But even with the progress made, there were still factions within humanity that couldn't shake their fears. Lyra, ever patient and graceful, spent her time reaching out to more people. She visited schools, speaking to children who were curious about her world, and met with scientists, sharing her knowledge, and learning from them in return. She knew that understanding was key, understanding humanity, and allowing humanity to understand her people. One afternoon, Alan and Lyra sat together in a small conference room, looking over the latest reports. The news had been mostly positive, but there were still pockets of resistance, especially from powerful leaders who were hesitant to allow full cooperation with the Yalthera. "How are you feeling about the progress?" Alan asked, leaning back in his chair and watching Lyra carefully. Lyra, always composed, looked out the window for a moment, as if considering the answer. "I believe the seeds of trust are being planted," she said, her voice calm but filled with quiet confidence. "But like any new beginning, growth takes time. Humanity is not one mind. It is many voices, each with their own fears, hopes, and dreams." Alan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "We have to keep pushing forward. I know there's more to be done." A sudden knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Alan opened it to find General Reed standing outside, holding a report in his hand. "Commander, we need to talk," Reed said, his expression serious. "It's about the Unity Summit." The Unity Summit was a critical event, a global meeting of leaders from all over the world. It was meant to be a turning point, a chance for the nations of Earth to come together and discuss the future of humanity's relationship with the Yalthera. But General Reed's serious expression told Alan that something was wrong. "What's going on?" Alan asked, concern creeping into his voice. "There's been a last-minute push from some of the more skeptical nations," General Reed explained. "They're demanding stricter terms. They want more control over the interactions between humans and the Yalthera. Some even want to impose restrictions on how much influence the Yalthera can have." Lyra, who had been listening quietly, stood up. Her presence was calm, but her eyes reflected a sharp intelligence. "I understand their fears," she said, her voice steady. "But I also know that their resistance comes from not seeing the bigger picture. They are afraid of change. But change, when it comes with understanding and mutual respect, can be the key to a new future." Alan looked at her, a sense of admiration in his chest. Lyra was right. There was a way forward, but it would require more than just peaceful demonstrations. It would take conversations, negotiations, and above all, time. "We have to be careful," Alan said, his voice firm. "If we push too hard, too fast, we risk losing the trust we've built. But if we don't push at all, we could miss the chance to truly unite." The decision was clear. Alan knew that the Unity Summit would be the moment of truth. It was a chance to show that humanity and the Yalthera could work together, not just for the present, but for a future of peace and cooperation. But it would take delicate negotiation and leadership to ensure that everyone walked away from the summit with a sense of progress. The day of the summit arrived, and Alan found himself standing at the podium, looking out over a sea of faces. The representatives of every nation on Earth were present, along with Lyra, who stood beside him, a calm and steady presence. The atmosphere was charged, filled with uncertainty and anticipation. This summit would be the moment where humanity's future could change forever. Alan took a deep breath, knowing that the weight of the world rested on this moment. He began speaking, his voice steady and clear. Today, we stand at a crossroads. Humanity faces a choice to fear the unknown or to embrace it. The Yalthera have offered us a gift, a chance to work together, to learn from each other, and to build a future that is not just for one species, but for all. But that future will only come if we choose to trust each other, if we choose to move forward, hand in hand, into the unknown. Liara stepped forward, her silver eyes sweeping across the room. We are not here to take from you, but to offer you a chance to grow, to become something greater than what you were yesterday. The Yalthera believe in your potential, and we are here to help you realize that potential. There was a long silence as the room absorbed her words. Then, slowly, a few representatives began to applaud, followed by others. It wasn't a unanimous reaction, but it was enough to spark hope. For the first time, the world seemed to see the possibility of a shared future. As the summit continued, Alan felt a sense of cautious optimism. The road ahead would not be easy, but there was something undeniable in the air, something that hadn't been there before: unity. The summit ended with a promise to continue discussions, to open channels of communication and cooperation between humanity and the Yalthera. It wasn't a perfect resolution, but it was a step towards something better. Afterward, Alan and Lyra stood together, looking out at the horizon. Today was a victory, Lyra said softly. Alan nodded, a small smile playing at the corners of his lips. It's just the beginning, but it's a good start. Together, they looked toward the future, uncertain, but filled with the possibility of a united world, a world where humanity and the Yalthera could build a new chapter in the galaxy's history, a future where peace was not just a dream, but a reality. The world had changed. The Unity Summit had been a turning point, but it was just the beginning of something much larger. Commander Alan Wells stood at the window of his office, looking out at the peaceful skyline. There was no sign of the chaos that had once seemed inevitable. The protests, the fear, the resistance, they were all beginning to fade, replaced by a sense of hope. But Alan knew this peace was fragile. It had been hard-earned, and it would require constant effort to maintain. Beside him, Lyra stood quietly, her eyes scanning the horizon. She had been by his side through the most difficult moments, offering guidance, wisdom, and a vision of a future that now seemed possible. "Do you think we've made enough progress?" Alan asked, his voice thoughtful. He still couldn't quite believe how far they had come. The path had been so uncertain, filled with challenges at every turn. But now, it felt like there was light at the end of the tunnel. Liara turned to him, her silver eyes filled with calm certainty. "Progress is not always measured by how far you have come, but by the steps you are willing to take. We have begun a journey, Commander. And that is what matters." Alan smiled, appreciating her perspective. He had learned a lot from Lyra over the past months, not just about the Yalthera, but about humanity itself. He had seen how fear could divide people, but he had also seen how hope could unite them. The work wasn't done, but they had created something new, a foundation on which they could build. The next few months were a whirlwind of activity. World leaders began to cooperate more openly with the Yalthera, sharing technology, knowledge, and resources. The benefits of the alliance were starting to show. Cities that had once been devastated by conflict and pollution began to flourish. New technologies, designed by the Yalthera, helped to heal the environment and improve life for everyone. Humanity was learning to trust, to understand, and to grow together with their new alien friends. It wasn't a perfect world, and there were still those who resisted the change, but they were fewer than before. More and more, it seemed that the world was ready for something new, something better. One evening, as the sun set behind the city, Alan and Lyra stood on the balcony of the headquarters. The sky was painted with shades of orange and purple, a reminder of the beauty that could still be found in the world. "I never thought it would be like this," Alan said, his voice soft. "I thought humanity would never be ready for something like this. But now I see that maybe we were ready all along. Maybe we just needed the right moment." Lyra smiled, her gaze distant. "Sometimes, all it takes is the right person to see the potential in others. Your world has always had the ability to reach this point, Commander. It just needed the chance." Alan looked at her, gratitude in his eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you, Lyra. You showed me what it meant to trust, what it meant to believe in the future. You believed in humanity when we couldn't even believe in ourselves." Lyra's smile was gentle, but there was a depth to her eyes, a quiet strength that made Alan feel as though he were looking into the future itself. "I believed in you because I see what you can become. Humanity is capable of greatness. It just needed a little guidance, a little hope." As the days passed, Alan and Lyra continued to work together, guiding the world toward a new era. They traveled to different countries, meeting with leaders, helping to smooth over disagreements, and showing that the Yalthera were not just visitors, but partners in humanity's journey forward. And though there were still challenges ahead, Alan knew that they had made the most important choice, the choice to move forward, to choose peace, and to choose unity. The fear that had once gripped the world was slowly being replaced by a shared vision of what could be, a future where humanity and the Yalthera stood together, hand in hand. As the years passed, Earth became a beacon of hope in the galaxy. The alliance with the Yalthera had not only saved their world, but had inspired others. Alien races from across the stars began to look to Earth, seeing a planet that had chosen unity over division, hope over fear. One day, Alan and Lyra stood in front of a new monument in the center of the capital city. The monument was simple, a symbol of the alliance between humanity and the Yalthera, a tree with roots that spread deep into the earth, its branches reaching up to the stars. Alan placed his hand on the cool stone of the monument. "This is for the future," he said quietly. Lyra stood beside him, her silver eyes filled with peace, "and for the past, for everything that brought us here, and everything that will come." Together, they looked toward the stars, knowing that the journey was far from over. But as long as they stood united, nothing was impossible. The future was bright, and it was theirs to shape.